that's a minimum wage for some, minimum wage in the UK. The whole point of playing these levels, though, is to get better and as you move through the levels. If you imagine making the same rate, or even dropping down to about 4 big blinds an hour, playing 2-4, so you're making $16-20 in 1 hour on one table, and then you're playing 5 tables. You might play more, you might play 12. I mean, you can still use this basic strategy, which you can easily use to multi-table 10, 12 tables if you want to. Um, but even if you're conservative and say you're playing 4 to 5 tables, that's $100 an hour, and that's only making about 4 big blinds per 100 hands. So it doesn't sound much, but that's what the regular players are making, and that's what your pros are making as well. A lot of them, a lot of the grinders, and it does add up. So this might be, you might be building your bankroll very slowly, but it's all good practice for when you do move up the levels. It's just like I was saying in the sit and goes and the double up, the 50-50 double or nothing tournaments, that 10% margin. If you've got a sample of, let's say, 10,000 tournaments, and you're making 10% ROI, return on investment, if you can, what that means is every time irrespective of whether you win or lose, you know that if you load up at a $10 sit and go, for every one of those you load up, if you load 10 of them up in one go, then you've made $10. Whether you win or lose those 10, in the long run, that will be worth $10 for you. And you could easily play 10 an hour. So again, getting back to that $10, $12 an hour thing, that is a minimum wage, or slightly more than a minimum wage, but you're doing it on your own terms and in your own time. So you can see why it's so popular now. And people do make a living from it, as opposed to going to work and doing a 9 to 5 job for say £12,000 a year or something like that. I mean, you can actually be a break-even player and still be in profit, because you get all of the like the VIP schemes and the rake back. Although I don't do a rake back scheme. They do very good where you can cash your points in throughout the year to get cash bonuses, and also they do like a milestone similar to poker stars, where as you hit certain amount of points, or as you accrue certain amount of points, you get things, iPods, hoodies. I think there's Premiership football tickets, but I mean it all adds up, and you could win all of those things by being a break-even player. But even break-even players are technically winning players because of the rake. You have to beat the rake to be a break-even player. Okay, so this video's been about 49 minutes here. I think we'll take it to just under an hour, and hopefully there hasn't been too many. Well, there's been a couple of interesting hands. I'm going to actually check back on this flop, because I think my ace has got some value, and I think the king queen is a kind of hand that hits a lot of his range. And he's checked there, and I'm not going to try and push him off. He might have a 4 or 6, and he doesn't. We're good there. So lesson there is not to give up too easy. So sometimes, rather than continuation bet, check call a bet instead. So check and then call a bet on the turn. It's cost you the same amount, but it looks a lot stronger than a continuation bet, And with ace high, you are going to be good a lot of the time. There's a hand going on here. Ace queen against ace king. Ace King takes it, and is this the same two players as before? Right, I'll just have a look. He had Ace 7 actually, so he doesn't need to bet it. Although against a lot of players, by betting it, he would have won the hand, because a lot of players would have folded out the Ace 9, but we know not to do that. So let's have a look at this hand. This was quite interesting. Just gonna sit out from that a moment, and that one. Right, so he raises to 60. I'm just going to fold that. He raises to 6, which is 3 big blinds, which is fine. He re-raises to 160. Yeah, if he's looking to get value on his hand, then that's not a bad raise, but we would be putting that up to $2. You wouldn't want him in with like a 6-7 against the Ace King, and then him to hit the 6 and go ahead in the hand. If he wants to do that, you have to make them pay. So I think 160 is a little bit cheap. And he's bet to 450. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because we know this Hisland's a weak player. He's went all in, obviously calls, and then the hand plays out itself, Ace Queen and Ace King. So I mean, we're over 100 big blinds up here, which is a very, very good session, considering we've only been on what, less than an hour. That's a very, very good result. And you'll have sessions like that. Other times, like I say, you'll play great poker for hours and hours, and you'll make a loss, but you need to stay focused, not tilt. All you can do is play good poker and make the right decisions. And sometimes you get it wrong, even though you've made the correct play. Sometimes you'll just be beaten. The kicker, someone will have you kicked, out kicked one above, or make a better 2 pair. Occasionally they'll make a better set. I mean, if that happens, set on set, you just have to pay them off. The same as flush over flush. I mean, hands like that, you should never dwell on them. It's the hands that you play poorly, and often they'll be the top pair hands when you get overexcited with them, and you build a big pot against a tight player, and that tight player guarantee will turn over a set or 2 pair, or but basically you'll be able to beat top pair. So you can just play good poker, solid poker, but don't get hung up on like your top pair hands. The point of this game is to try and like I say, speculative hands, cheap hands, get in, and you want to be smashing the players with the aces and the kings. You want to be outflutting them, beating them. You don't want to be the one who gets taken to the cleaners with a top up pair or over pair when you're obviously beaten. And sometimes you have to make tough laydowns, and money saved is every bit as important as money earned, probably more so, I would say. So we'll have a few more hands, and then it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the Newcastle United game tomorrow, so I'm going to call it a night. If you've seen the YouTube channel, you've noticed I've also into the sports betting, and I will eventually be putting some videos with tips for various things. Now this Hisland, who's just won a pot, so he shouldn't really be tilting, has just bet into this flop, but we got over cards to the 4 and the 6, so I'm going to call. He could well have anything, and he's checked again. This time I'm just going to check back for pot control, and we've actually hit a gut shot, but I think Hisland's the type of player to bet this. and unless he's got 7-9, now I'm going to give him a chance to bluff over the top of this. I'm going to just min raise here and give him a chance to hang himself, because I think he's just the type of player to do it. And if he's got 7-9, we'll pay him off. And he's just called. Now the fact that he's called, I think we might have lost value there, but I really didn't think he had a hand. And he doesn't really need a hand to call the min raise on the end, because it does look fishy. And in fact he called it with king high, so we did play that hand perfectly. It's not often that you play hands perfectly, but I think we did play that one perfectly. If we'd raised at any point before, he would have, or if we'd even betted ourselves, he would have been away. So that was a good hand for us. And sometimes it's the little pots like that that you get more pleasure out of when you read the situation perfectly. And we had a plan, we stuck to it. Unfortunately he didn't go crazy because he had king high. If he didn't have king high, I think there's a good chance that he sticks in another bet when we min raise on the river. Or maybe I'm just being optimistic. Queen Jack, great hand to play, but more multi-way and not out of position. Yeah, so going back to sports betting, again, I don't profess to be a genius when it comes to sports betting, but just to give you a few indications of some of the bets. I look for long shots. I mean, just some of the ones that come to mind. We had Neptune Collonges, winner of the Grand National, at 33s, although you could have had 50s in the morning. Had that horse. Had synchronised for the Gold Cup, not as long, but certainly there were 12s and 14s knocking around. Had Louis Oosthuizen for the golf, although he didn't win the Masters. He was 90, 100 to 1, so getting each way, you're getting a quarter of the odds, and obviously he went to a playoff. In the playoff, I would have certainly recommended that you take half of your winnings, or potential winnings, and stuck them on the other man, in which case you would have been winning either way. And remember, you still would have had 25 to 1 on the place. I do follow the cycling, and I had Chris Froome. He was 400 to 1 before the time trial in the Vuelta de España, which is the Spanish equivalent of the Tour de France. Backed him at 400 to 1 before the time trial, and the next day he was 10 to 1, and he actually finished second, 2 seconds behind the winner. So again, I got a quarter of the odds, which is 100 to 1, but it could have easily been 500 to 1 combined odds. But again, a cracking bet, not to be grumbled at, 100 to 1. So that's just an idea of some of the bets I had. Obviously they don't come along all the time, but like I say to everyone, long shots pay for themselves. I mean, if you have a winner, if you have the winner of the National at 33 to 1, it's the same as 16 2 to 1 shots, and you're not going to back 16 2 to 1 shot without getting losers. So if there's any bets that come up that I fancy, I'll certainly let you know through these, maybe as a separate video. Put a few quid on it if you want. If you like to bet big, and I can't guarantee which winners there will be, but I can guarantee that eventually we will have some big shot winners, probably through the golf, horse racing, and obviously we've got the Tour de France in the summer. I suppose a quick one to look at for a little each way bet is Pierre Roland. Round about the 25 to 33 to 1 shots. He won the Young Riders last year, and if he rides anything near as well as he did with his teammate Thomas Vogler this year, or last year I should say, he'll be in for a shout. So I think we're going to just about finish off now. I'm going to sit out of this hand, close that table. So $39, that's a good, almost double the investment. I'm just going to end on this little hand here. I'm not going to go crazy if he comes over the top with a 3 bet. Okay, Okay, we'll end on that. Until next time, take care.